Peskarma, everybody. Hello, thank you very much for joining us today. It's very lovely sunny day in Melbourne, so I don't know where you are, but feel free to type in where you're from. That would be great. And my name is Naoko Mabon, curator based in Melbourne. I'm facilitating today's event, which is, as Verity said, that this is post-conversation event of the Nurturing Creativity Piece by Piece project, funded by Creative Scotland. And this project is the 2022 program of Eco-Creative Cluster Project, which started last year. And this Eco-Creative Cluster is a project focusing on natural dyeing, which involves two main activities. One is developing a community dye garden in the grounds of the Lockfield Center, which is led by urban-based textile artist Deborah Gray with local volunteers. And in parallel, there is a network weaving part, which is this event, in which we meet virtually with practitioners from different localities in the world who also work on natural dyeing. And the people we meet today are from Living Blue. Living Blue is a Bangladeshi social enterprise producing indigo and handcrafted dyed stitched couture textiles for home and high fashion. Their indigo dye is processed organically from indigo leaves cultivated by regional farmers. Today, as Verity said, that we have two exciting representatives from Living Blue for the event. Murtaza Johangir. Murtaza is the technical officer at Living Blue. Hi, Murtaza. And Mojibur Haq Momi. Momi is the production manager at Living Blue. So thank you very much, Murtaza and Momi, for joining us today. Well, I trust that it's 6 p.m. in Dhaka, where Murtaza is just now, and the Rampur, where Momi is just now in. So thank you. And now Murtaza and Momi are giving us a presentation about what Living Blue is and does. After that, I will ask a few questions to them before opening up the floor to invite more questions from the audience. So please feel free to put your questions in the chat box as we go, or you can keep it to the end. Either way, we will come back to that later on. So thank you very much and welcome Murtaza and Momi, over to you.
Thanks, Naoko. Hello everyone, and a very good evening from Bangladesh. So we will take some time just to tell what Living Blue is all about. Let me start my presentation, and we expect that you will enjoy and know a little bit more about Living Blue and indigo, why indigo is so important here in Bangladesh. And so it's all about revival of the blue gold, we say. Why we're calling this a revival? Because indigo here in Bangladesh, indigo has some negative memories. As we all know that this greater Indian subcontinent was once part of this British Empire for more than 2 centuries. During those British colonial era, our farmers, local farmers, they had to go through so many extortions and exploitations for this indigo. After that colonial era, people here, they actually forgot how to produce this pigment from the plant. And after a century, with technical support from CARE Bangladesh, we revived those techniques. So let's move ahead. So Living Blue, it's an artisan-owned social enterprise, which means people who are the producers for Living Blue, they are also the owners. So artisan and the indigo farmers, they have their shares in Living Blue's ownership. That's why we call this a social enterprise. It's their dream to have their own business. This is Living Blue is a mean for them. It's a gateway to a dignified livelihood. Uh, Living Blue is producer of natural indigo dye, as Naoko mentioned in her introduction. Also, Living Blue is producer of high fashion textiles that are very high quality, and for our target is the high fashion niche market. Uh, because from the scratch to finished product, our every stage of production is hand done. We also offer dyeing service, and we also have a design house where we provide an open platform for talented designers to collaborate. We had in past, we had many designers who visited our atelier. They understood our capacity, they understood our artisan specialty, and blended with their imagination and developed so many exciting products. So how Living Blue started, we have to just to know that we have to go back to 2005. CARE Bangladesh has been an influential organization for 75 years in Bangladesh. They have very significant contribution in where today Bangladesh is. They strengthen local governance, they address many poverty, so many areas of focus CARE contributed. There was an inclusive governance project of CARE, which was focused on the districts in northern part of Bangladesh. The idea behind this inclusive governance project was to create natural leaders, the leaders who will speak for their communities, who can speak, who can carry the message to proper authorities from their community, whatever they need, like they need sanitation support, or they need some communication support, whatever they need, they know where to convey their messages, and they know how to make the authorities their voices heard. Back then, there was an economical lean period every year, which was recurring every year, and people used to call monga. Monga means lack of work, lack of money. So at that time, most of the families went through severe financial hardships, because farmers, most of the farmers in northern Bangladesh, they were landless, and they didn't have work during that lean period. That's why they actually struggled financially, and eventually that led to other consequences. So natural leaders, they place their demand to CARE, give us something to work on for throughout the year, so that we can also have something to work during the Monga period. In response to their demand, CARE started community mobilization. So CARE experts, they started to move around communities. They started to interview the participants and find where what are their expertise where. Because CARE's idea was to make a combination of local resource and local skill to develop a sustainable livelihood. There they found the first thing they found that the woman population in the households, which is half of the population, they are not allowed to participate in any kind of income generating activities, which was a huge problem. Like your family is surviving, your family is struggling financially, but half of the population you're not allowing to do anything that makes money. And these women, they inherited from their grandmothers, from their mothers, they inherited the skill of quilting. They are very skilled with quilting blankets and nokshitathas. So Care thought that this quilting skill can be utilized. This skill, because among the art patrons and art collectors, there's a demand of nokshikatha kind of things. So Care started to build groups in different areas, different communities. Later, these groups are now known as clusters of Living Blue. So they started this. They started the Nokshikatha group, and and recruited a consultant who would idea was that he would fine tune their skills and make their stitches appealing to the international audiences as well. So that's the fact. That there's the fun story how Living Blue rediscovered the indigo. That consultant was heading to one of the communities. On the way, he noticed indigo plants, because he noticed the indigo plants, and local people, they actually had no clue about the purpose of this plant, what the potential of this plant. So he asked one of our colleagues, which plant is this? Locally, people forgot the original name of that plant. So locally, they knew it by the name Malkuri. Our colleague responded, this is Malkuri. So the consultant thought that we were trying to hide the potential. That's why we have given him some wrong answer. Therefore, he asked one of the community members. They responded the same, and we're happy that the consultant realized that we actually forgot the purpose. He took 2 plants with him. He did some experiment overnight, and when he found that was the eureka moment when he found the first indigo slurry. Then he pitched the idea to Care that this is the gold. You're sitting on this, but you don't know the potential of this thing. Back then, Care sent a group of farmers farmers to India just to learn how to do this indigo dye extraction in larger scale. And that consultant, he was also expert of Japanese tie-dye technique shibori. So he combined this indigo dyeing and shibori, and that's how we get these fine Living Blue textiles these days. So our workforce, in our workforce, we have 550 landless indigo farmers. They are the most vulnerable ones, because during the lean period, they actually remain unemployed, workless. So these landless farmers, we have some arrangement with the local government. We have roadside lands which belong to the government, but we have the approval to do the indigo cultivation during indigo season. So we distribute seeds to these landless farmers, and they do the cultivation, and after the cultivation, during the harvest, they sell the leaves to indigo. Also, some of the farmers, they also work during the dye extraction process. So which used to be their lean period, now they have something to work, and they have some income. And we have 250 artisans. Among these 250, 15 artisans are our dyers, who are very skilled in dyeing, not only with indigo, also with other natural ingredients. We have 35 shibori artisans and 200 quilting artisans that they're based in 5 neighboring districts of Rangpur. And as Nauko, as you already said, that we produce one of the finest indigo dye from plant. Here is the indigo plant. The scientific name is Indigofera tinctoria. When it's fully grown, it grows up to 2 meters, and by appearance, it's a shrub kind of plant. And seeds are sown between mid-February to mid-March, and leaves, we start harvesting leaves from mid-July. So the main purpose for the farmers, why they retained this indigo plant is they knew its leguminous properties, which means this indigo plant is a nitrogen fixer. In northern Bangladesh, in the agricultural pattern is they have two food crops, then there is a gap. So as filler crop, they used to cultivate this indigo plant. They knew that food crops, they consume nitrogen from the soil, and indigo there for the time being, if they cultivate indigo, it will fix that nitrogen level. Therefore, they will not need to purchase any nitrogen fertilizer later for their production. And at the beginning, I said we have some negative memories around this indigo cultivation, and CARE on that note, CARE had to work hard to build awareness just to sensitize the communities. First indigo plantation was recorded in 1777, and then it actually quickly spread across the Bengal, because the land pattern of Bengal, it's loamy soil, and which is very suitable for indigo cultivation. And what happened in the past, we don't want to go to that detail, but there was a revolution led by the indigo farmers against the indigo planters. That was in the summer of 1859 to 60. Because the farmers they found themselves cornered, couldn't take the pain anymore. So finally, they responded with a revolution. In response to that revolution, the British government formed Indigo Commission. Indigo Commission found out that every single box of indigo that shipped to the port of England and Scotland, no box leaves Bengal without a single drop of bloodshed. That's why Indigo Commission took the authority to reform this cultivation process. They made it ethical. They reduced the violences, and also gave the farmers, they allowed the farmers to voluntarily decide whether he should go with indigo cultivation or not. Because before the revolution, the farmers were forced to do the indigo cultivation throughout the year instead of food crops. So this indigo cultivation and the dye production went till 1890s. Till 1890s, because as if we look back at the history, in Germany in 1872, the German company Bayer, they invented this synthetic indigo pigment in their lab, and by 1892, the synthetic indigo dye was commercially available in the market, and being cheaper than the natural ones, the industries shifted their focus from natural dye to synthetic indigo. Just because the demand fell, farmers stopped this indigo cultivation and this dye extraction process. And then here is the contemporary scenario in Bangladesh. Back in 1980s, one of the natural dye pioneer, Ruby Ghaznavi, she reintroduced this natural indigo dye. And in 2005, as I already said, CARE rediscovered the existence of indigo plant. And in 2006, Living Blue successfully produced its first small batch, which is roughly around 14 kilo. And currently, our capacity is producing, we are capable of producing like 1.5 tons of indigo every year. And this is something from CARE, we also address some other issues, like we provide healthcare, and we provide micro health insurances, and the revenue that generates Living Blue generates, 38% to 40% actually goes back to the farmers and artisans as their wages, and 40% is spent for the raw material purchasing, because for indigo and textile production we need a quite huge amount of raw materials, and remaining 20% is actually spent for office operations and compliance kind of stuffs, because Living Blue works with so many European brands, especially we work with Loewe, we work with Galerie Lafayette. That's why Living Blue has to maintain some sort of compliance, so that 20% is spent for the compliance. And this is the benefit of indigo cultivation, that is actually goes to the farmers and the people who let their use the lands for indigo cultivation. On average, during the indigo season, one a landless farmer earns roughly around $113, which we consider as their supplemental income, because they have some other primary source of income. And as I said, if indigo is cultivated on a piece of land, the landowner does not need to purchase any nitrogen fertilizer for later. That's how he can save per $629 per acre of land, because he don't have to, he or she doesn't have to buy any nitrogen fertilizer. So we use 300 acres of land for indigo cultivation, and also the wastewater during the indigo dye production process, that also has some demand among the farmers as indigo as an alternate nitrogen fertilizer. Living Blue is atelier is actually situated in a piece of agricultural land. So surrounding Living Blue, there are lots of rice fields. So the land, they actually get benefited from Living Blue's indigo dye production like this. We have a reservoir where we ditch our wastewater, indigo production wastewater. During rainfall, that wastewater overflows, and they carry this wastewater to the neighboring lands. That's how the farmers get benefited. They also get this benefit of nitrogen fertilizer. And the lands that are not attached to our atelier, that are quite a bit far away, the farmers, they come with buckets and they collect the wastewater and take them for their application. And over the time, we had some changes in agricultural pattern in northern, as Bangladesh is developing, Bangladesh's economy is developing, and we are having more and more products in Bangladeshi market, and entrepreneurs are also introducing new products, like some things that were we didn't even imagine that kind of thing actually exists, like the cornstarch. So recently, Bangladesh has started producing cornstarch, and just because of that, in not Bengal, there are a few cornstarch factories, and for just as raw material, they need a huge amount of maize. That's why some of the farmers, they're shifting their focus to maize instead of indigo, because indigo and maize, they're having some overlapping season. So these are the challenges we're facing these days. And now let's talk about collaborations. This is one of the collaboration. Anais Gary, a very talented designer based in Paris. She visited Living Blue Atelier, worked with Momi for 2 or 3 weeks, and came up with these new designs. Then we worked with Zach Posen. This gown wore by Iman. This gown is made from the fabrics of Living Blue, dyed by indigo of Living Blue. And also we have landed in Paris, which is not moon, but the fashion capital of the world. And we're still connected to our roots. And this is the view of Living Blue Atelier, this panorama. And as you can see, this picture was taken during the indigo dye production season. So indigo dyes are they're laid for sun drying. And we will move on to questions later, but now I believe we can demonstrate part of our production process. So I'm just stop sharing my screen, and we'll watch the video together.
এটা হচ্ছে নীল ক্ষেত, অত্র এলাকায় এই ক্ষেতটার নাম হচ্ছে মাল ক্ষেত। এটা জমির উর্বরতা বাড়ানোর জন্য, জ্বালানি হিসেবে ব্যবহার করার জন্য এটা নীল চাষ করে। এখন আমাদের প্রতিষ্ঠানে আমরা বীজ দিতেছি, বীজ দেওয়ার পরে তাদের কাছ থেকে আমরা পাতাটা কিনে নিয়ে যেতেছি এবং এখানে আমরা সর্বোচ্চ 22 ইঞ্চি পর্যন্ত আমরা আগালটা কেটে নিই। গাড়িতে করে নিয়ে যাওয়ার পরে তারপর আমাদের ফ্যাক্টরিতে প্রসেস শুরু হবে। ময়লা না থাকে তার জন্য আমরা ওয়াশ করতেছি। পাতাটা নিচের দিকে এবং ডাঁটাটা উপরের দিকে করে আমরা সারিবদ্ধভাবে সাজিয়ে রাখছি। এরপরে আমরা এটার মধ্যে 10,000 লিটার পানি দিয়ে জাগ দিব, যে পাঁচ যেভাবে জাগতে এগুলো দেওয়ার পরে ফার্মেন্টেশনের জন্য আমরা রেখে দেবো। 14 ঘন্টা পরে এটা তুলে তারপরে আমরা অক্সিডেশন ট্যাঙ্কে নিয়ে যাই, অক্সিডেশন করবো। ফাংশন হওয়ার পরে তারপর আমাদের পাতাটা যখন রসটা আমরা ট্যাঙ্কে নিয়ে যাই, তার আগে এগুলো আমরা এখানে উচ্ছিষ্ট হিসেবে বের করে দেই। এটা এখন জ্বালানি হিসাবে আমাদের গ্রামে যারা তুলতে পারবে তারা আবার এটা নিচ্ছে জ্বালানি হিসাবে তারা ব্যবহার করবে। আপনারা দেখতে পাচ্ছেন এখানে আমাদের অক্সিজেন ট্যাঙ্ক। এই ট্যাঙ্কের মাধ্যমে ওই যে আমাদের ফার্মেন্টেশন যে ট্যাঙ্কে যে পানিটা এখানে নিয়ে এসে আমরা প্রসেস করি, প্রসেস করার পরে 2 থেকে 3 ঘন্টা লাগে। লাগার পরে আমাদের এখানে নীলটা নিচে বসে যায়। গাটটা নিয়ে এখান থেকে নিয়ে তারপর বয়েল করি। বয়েল করার পরে তারপর এখানে আমরা ফিল্টার করি। এখানে আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি যে এখানে যে নাড়াচাড়া করতেছে, এই কারণে এখানে নাড়াচাড়া করলে নীলটা কাপড়ের মধ্যে আটকে যাবে, আর যে পানিটা থাকবে সেটা নিচ দিয়ে আমাদের দেখছি আমরা এখান দিয়ে বের হয়ে যাবে। এই প্রক্রিয়াটা যদি আমরা না করি তাহলে এটা শুকাইতে বহুদিন সময় লাগবে। এই কারণে আমরা পরবর্তীতে এটা যখন পানিটা পড়ে যাবে তখন আমরা এখানে রাখবো, ড্রামের মধ্যে রাখার পরে তারপরে আমরা রোদ্দুরে দিব। The Living Blue is a social enterprise of care, and what we do here is that we work with farmers and artisans in the villages, and we produce natural indigo, and we do quilting, shibori,
home textiles and fashion accessories and clothing mostly. And we sell Ringu as a label throughout the world.
অতি দরিদ্রের জন্য কাজ শিখার জন্য ব্লক প্রিন্টের কাজ দিয়েছিল, সেখানে কাজ শিখছি। ট্রেনিং করার পর এখানে আসি, কাজ শিখিয়ে তাকে ডালের কাজ করি। আর এখানকার টাকা পাওয়ার পর আয় করেছি, সব বাচ্চাদের লেখাপড়া শিখেছি, নিজে খরচ করি, স্বামী খরচ করে। আগে এক বেলা খাস না, 3 বেলা চলাই, আগের চেয়ে এখন ভালোই দিন যায়। আমি, আমার পরিবার, আমার বাবা মা, 2টি ভাই ও আমি, আমার মেয়ে থাকি। আমি এখানে সেলাইয়ের কাজ করি। সেলাইয়ের কাজ করে আমার এবং আমার মেয়ের প্রয়োজনীয় জিনিসপত্র কিনি এবং এখান থেকে কিছু টাকা রাখি দিই ভবিষ্যতের জন্য, এবং কিছু টাকা আমি বাবা মায়ের সংসারে হেল্প করি।
Great. Well, thank you very much, Metaza. That's a great presentation. Thank you very much. Yeah, I have a few comments really, but first, like we are chatting the other day that this is possibly the one of the first occasions to introduce what Living Blue is and then what you do in Scotland. But actually, you know, the relationship actually is tracing back a long history, and there was history that all those indigo was shipped to Dundee. You are saying Dundee port.
Yes, yes. They were shipped to Dundee from Kolkata.
Mm-hmm.
All the indigo produced in Bengal, they were gathered here in Dhaka, and they used to sell down to south through south across the Bay of Bengal coastline. They reached Kolkata port. From Kolkata, they were shipped to Dundee. From Dundee, they were then transported to Manchester because lots of denim industries were there in Manchester.
Yeah, no, it's we are recently kind of tracing back all those histories, you know, like what kind of relationships, both good and bad, were there, and then how we can think about it, how we can, you know, yeah, learn the history, and then think about what we can do in this time, I guess. But also it's really impressive to see that so many female are involved in the Living Blue. Like as you are saying that the quilting.
Yes, 96% of our workforce is female.
How many percent?
96%.
That's impressive, and yeah, all the skills are passed on, especially the quilting skills. It's if I understand correctly, that's called kantha.
Yes, kantha.
Kantha.
In Bangla we say it katha.
Kata, sorry.
Yeah, we say it katha, but we spell it like kantha.
I see. Is that is there special history about it, kata?
Well, like across the world, we have so many cultures that has this quilting as tradition.
Mm-hmm.
So in Bangladesh, kantha, they are very traditional for, especially for the winter, because blankets are recently introduced something. Before that, people used to wrap kantha in the winter. And but there are some differences, like here in Bangladesh, the typical practice of kantha was kantha was actually a mean of recycling old saris. you know, saris, the very traditional women wear here in India and Bangladesh. So after sari loses its color and gloss,
Yeah,
they recycle several pieces of saris, stitch them together, make a kantha.
I
Uh,
see. I
so
like the
that's why kantha was part of Bangladesh. Kantha has always been the part of Bangladeshi tradition. In some
mm,
regions of Bangladesh, there are this tradition of Nokshi Kantha. Nokshi Kantha, they are not just only a piece of blanket. They represent the culture. Sometimes they represent the history. Like we also have, we also have Nokshi Kantha artisans in some part of our Living Blue workforce.
yeah,
What they do, they are given their freedom to draw anything on the piece of fabric and just depict it with the needles and threads. So what we found, sometimes they depicted their daily life. Uh, in a piece of kantha, you will find the local tube well. You will find the shape of their house they live in. You will find the banana tree they see every day.
I see.
In some places, the artisans, they are very skilled in drawing figures. So some parts of Bengal, they draw some plots based on local mythology.
Mm, so it's a regional. It reflects the
Yes,
regional
yes. In
characteristics.
different parts of Bangladesh and India, we have a huge collection of Nokshi Kantha. In
Mm,
Rajasthan, you will find very colorful and vibrant Nokshi Kanthas.
oh, that's interesting. Another quick question is that you, in your slide, the challenge slide, it mentioned that some of the very old-fashioned way of agriculture is changing because of the new introduction of
Yes,
different.
the change is actually changes happening there because of new demand.
Mm,
Back then, there was no demand for maize. The farmers didn't feel it like cultivating maize could be so much beneficial. That's
yeah,
why they used to cultivate indigo just to replenish the nitrogen level of the lands. But now, since the private entrepreneurs, they introduced this cornstarch and other diversified products. So they ask local farmers if they can produce maize for them, and they buy it from the local farmers.
I see. I understand that the nitrogen will fix the soil, and then that is actually good for other products like rice.
Yes, yes.
But
Nitrogen is very important for other crops
I see.
like rice and potato, whatever they cultivate.
Is there any other kind of effect, possibly negative effect for instance, some insects or other kind of living things?
Well, indigo plants, they have no negative effect. But what we can say, anything excess, nothing is better, as we all know. If we cultivate indigo on a piece of land throughout the year, the land will have the land will have an imbalancement of nutrients. They will have much nitrogen than the standard level, and that will actually result in bad quality crop later. But that's why indigo cultivation is controlled. It doesn't take place for more than 4 months.
Yeah, I see. Maybe this question is more to Momi, I imagine, but the shibori, I should know because I'm from Japan, but the shibori process, it seems like kind of accordion, like, like a pressing, and
Yes,
then I
an
saw
accordion.
some video that the people kind of putting the
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit the process? Oh, Momi, I think you're muted.
Momi, you're muted. Just unmute yourself.
Okay. First, we ready the fabric for shiburi. Then, in one part, on the video, you saw some women are stitching shiburi. They stitch the big stitch on fabric with the thick thread. After stitch, they pull the thread towards them and make the fabric, the meter fabric like 10 centimeter or 15 centimeter.
Yeah.
After they squeeze the fabric, they tying the fabric, then we put the fabric into water. First we soak the fabric water. Then we put the fabric into the indigo dye. After dye, then we take out the thread from the fabric. That you see the fabric we take out from the fabric, and then we open the fabric. Then the design come out.
Ah, so first, like you tie the fabric, like a white fabric.
We pleat the fabric very tight. It is very compressed.
And
like,
some
like a fabric of 85 inches, it will be after tie, it will be like 10 inches. 85 inches goes 10 inches. Then after dye, we will open it. Then again 85 inches, and the shiburi is covered.
It's quite interesting how many artisans are there, and quilting artisans are a lot more, but dyers are 15 and 35
Shibori artists.
artisan, and 200 quilting artisan, and dyers are more dyeing. Well, I know that it's more complicated, but more difficult skill to attain.
No, every work is difficult. Dyeing, shiburi, quilting, everything is difficult. You find the quilting artisan 250 because the quilting is household based. We gave the design fabric to the artisan. They stitch katha in their home, and we dye fabric in atelier, then send the fabric to the artisan, and they take the fabric at home and they stitch there. So the stitch artisan is more, and dyer is 15 dyer is enough for what kind of production we make. 15 dyer is enough. And artisan 35 shiburi artisans, they are good and well trained artisans. They can good nice production.
Please feel free to. I think I feel like I talk too much now, so please feel free to ask a question in the chat box or.
Yeah, I'll read this one out. This is from Jay Shaw. Does Living Blue stand alone, or are there other programs in India or Bangladesh or other places that are using indigo production as a sustainable crop to help populations?
In India, they had some continuous practice of indigo cultivation in South, like in Chennai. But we don't know about any other programs. But in Bangladesh, Living Blue actually stands alone. Living Blue is the one promoting this indigo cultivation. Initially, another organization who pioneered, but later they stopped the production process. But now Living Blue stands alone in the crowd. And in export market, Living Blue is the only one that has access to export market.
And then I have a question as well. When you're working with designers, do they often come and visit the plantation and speak to the dyers?
In most of the cases, the designers come and talk to the artisans and dyers. They understand try to understand the capacity of our workforce, and they collaborate. They just make a blend of their imagination. And in other cases, some of we also receive design patterns from the designers over email or over the courier. They also they also collaborate with their designs from their own workstation. But in most of the cases, the designers, they come and visit our atelier.
And can it be quite challenging if you're working with big designers like Loewe? Do they suddenly expect you to be able to produce a crazy amount, or do they understand your capacity?
Who works with us, they first they know about our capacity and our limitations, and we haven't actually faced any sort of design that seemed very challenging for us. Even not that order volume was not even challenging for us.
Mhm.
Because the designers who work with us, because Living Blue belongs to the slow fashion market.
Yes.
So for the largest order, the order volume could be roughly around 50 to 60 pieces. That's why we haven't faced any challenge yet.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Great. If do anyone have more questions? I don't mean to drag you in, Linda, but because you said
I can see Linda in the crowd. Linda is a good supporter of Living Blue. Hi, Linda.
Really? Oh, you know already each other.
Yes, we have very long relationship with Linda.
Sorry, I see.
Yes, so, yes, I met Michelle at, was Sutra in 2017. And I've been carrying their indigo. I have a business where I sell natural dyes, and I ship around the world, and I carry many different indigos. So I carry Living Blues from Bangladesh, and I'm very proud to partner with them and sell their beautiful indigo. And I import about, I think, 20 kilos a year is what it's about now. So it's a beautiful, beautiful indigo. Yeah. And soap makers buy it from me, not just dyers, but soap makers like it, and they produce beautiful, beautiful indigo soaps with their indigo. So
I see. No, sorry. That Linda, sorry. You remind me of, I completely forgot about my third question, which is
I'm sorry.
to ask, no, your name is there. So my third question was to weave this natural dye network further. I asked this to every practitioner, but can you tell us other practitioners' names that Living Blue have already connection with, and then your name is on top of the list, so that really makes sense. Murtaza, can you introduce a few names you gave us?
Apart from Linda, we have Kathy Hattori. She is also based in US, and Fumi Kobayashi. She is a good friend of Living Blue, and Sarah Bellows. She is the one who purchased 1 ton of indigo from Living Blue in one go.
I see. So yourself is a dyer, Linda, or are you practitioner as well?
Yeah, I'm a dyer. I specialize in indigo, and then I also work with many other natural dyes. I also have a dye garden, and I grow Indigofera subfruticosa, Indigofera tinctoria, and the Japanese indigo Persicaria tinctoria. And it's actually right now I'm watching a big storm that's coming up from Florida, and I'm going to have to support my my indigo so it doesn't all get beaten down to the ground. So after this lecture, I'm going to run outside and start building fences around the indigo. So yeah, and I travel and teach. I work with indigenous groups, and I work with them to either reintroduce a lost technique or teach them something new to help them earn a better living. Maybe also as a consultant to them to answer their questions. Maybe teaching them something that's more sustainable, more eco-friendly. And in order to do this, I typically do a crowdfunding. I raise the money and then volunteer my time. And I've been doing this since about 2007.
Oh, that's wonderful what you're doing. That's very interesting. So we have a dye garden, as we were saying,
Yeah.
in Auburn. And unfortunately, well, I wish Deborah were here, who is the dyer in Auburn. But if I remember correctly, because we have a temperate climate in Auburn, Indigofera is not so, it's quite difficult for us to grow. So what we have is for blue is Ward and Japanese indigo, and they are the kind of okay for us to grow. But the Indigofera needs more tropical climate, if I understand correctly. So I imagine that in Lampu and your area, Linda, you have.
I'm not, I mean, we have 4 seasons. We have, spring, summer, winter, and fall here. I plant my Indigofera tinctoria in the middle of April. And, and then cross my fingers that we have a good summer. But the Sufruticosa, the seeds are coming along really beautifully. The tinctoria is a tiny bit behind, but we shouldn't have a frost until late October, the end of October, or even into November. So I should be fine. Japanese indigo is, it's a workhorse. It's so easy to grow. I think you could grow it anywhere. And woad is a traditional UK plant or traditional European plant, so it should grow fine for you. But I wouldn't not try growing the tinctoria, And maybe if you've got a greenhouse, you could start the seedlings early inside and then put them outside after the first frost or last frost. You would be fine, I think. What do you think, Murtaza?
Yeah, thing is that you have talked about the challenges of indigo cultivation in Scotland, but here in Bangladesh, because of the climate, the context is quite different. And the main reason why farmers were mostly interested for this indigo can be, we say it indigo cultivation, but it's more like growing a wild bush kind of thing, because it's not as labor intensive as other crops. You sow the seeds. Before sowing, you do some plowing in the land, but then you sow the seeds, and then the rainfall is quite enough for growing the indigo plants. Yeah, and best part of that, indigo plants are safe from insect attacks, and so the farmers can easily spend some relaxing time with indigo plants.
Yeah.
For Nauko, I think if she has access to any greenhouse kind of setup, maybe she can experiment with some indigo seed in some greenhouse.
Oh, that's one. Yeah, ask to Verity, I think.
Yes, but I mean, I would really. It's not bothered by bugs. I do water in the very beginning. I do light waterings almost daily until it's a good height. And then it really doesn't need any more water unless we have a real dry spell. So it's an easy plant to grow. And it's beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. Small leaves and beautiful. I can see Elizabeth just came into the room, and who is expert in indigo. She's based in Glasgow in Scotland, and you use Tinctoria, Indigofera, right?
No, I use Japanese indigo, Persicaria. I was just in the process of sending a comment there. I'm actually in the process of extracting Japanese indigo as we speak and making samples from my crop this year. I have tried to grow Indigofera tinctoria here in Scotland, and I just don't think it's possible unless you grow it under tunnel.
As Murtaza.
Difficult. Yeah. So I have been growing now Japanese indigo for a couple of years, different kinds, and this year in two different sites. Site make a big difference. The ground makes a big difference in the amount of pigment you are able to raise, which if you're growing it commercially like Living Blue does, it's very important. Indigofera tinctoria, I think, really needs the weather. I don't think we have enough sun, certainly in the west of Scotland, for
No.
it. And I think the temperature is not, it's not so much there is a different temperatures. The high temperature never raises high enough, I think.
Oh.
That's my opinion, but I don't have a big experience of it. I've just tried it, that's all.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Thank you. That's a
You're
great.
very welcome. And my apologies for joining so late. I made a mistake with the time, so.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Um,
No, thank you. No, it's a great timing for you to the expert
Thanks,
of Indigo
Elizabeth.
coming.
Your
I-
inputs were very useful.
I have been working with Living Blue indigo. I imported some of your indigo 2
Yes.
years ago at the
Yeah,
beginning
yeah,
of
I
COVID.
remember.
Yes.
Ah.
And well, that was with you actually, wasn't it? Yeah, I think that we
Yeah.
were talking to each other. Yeah.
It's me. It's me.
So I hope you are feeling much better, because
Yep.
I think you had COVID at the time. So
Oh.
yeah, so this has been a very good experience. It was introduced to me by I cannot remember her name now, but I went to an indigo workshop in Bali again before COVID, and I met a lady who runs
I
a social
think your
enterprise.
name it came from one of our Bangladeshi entrepreneur, Hema.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So she introduced your organization to me, and then eventually I ordered some. So,
Oh, lovely.
but yes, yeah, very good connection.
How can I say? It's a broke one, broke indigo.
Powder.
It's bits. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
I can't remember actually. I've still got some. I haven't used it all.
It could be flake or powder. I also don't remember. Yes.
It's the powder.
Ah.
Yeah,
It's powder.
the powder. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure that when we were in Bali, we did try a little bit, and I think that was bits, not powder.
The chip.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
So
what
the
thing-
chips. Yeah.
I was thinking that seeing the video, ladies are kind of the kind of liquidy blue, kind of spreading out, and that blue, the berry blue, it's very special color, isn't it? Like I guess that there's a slight difference between Japanese indigo and indigo
Yes.
Fera and
This indigo
Yes.
Fera and Japanese indigo is quite different because
Yeah.
like we produce it from the leaves. So when we start the dye extraction process, we get a green sludge.
Yeah.
When we take the green sludge, we pump it through air, circulate it through the air, the oxidation process. So the sludge reacts with the oxygen in the air and turns blue.
Mhm.
Then we get the blue sediment, which we collect and process it as indigo dye. But when we start dyeing fabric with that indigo dye, we see the reverse engineering kind of thing. When we prepare the vat, it also turned that yellowish green. When we the fabric, it comes out yellowish green, but we have to wave the fabric in the air, and with the air's oxygen, it turns itself into blue.
I think this is one of the most instant dyeing experience that you can have, the dyeing with indigo, but it's one of the one that's the most graphic for people to learn about natural dye. I ran a workshop 2 weeks ago with 100 small children, and they were dyeing directly from the leaves. So instead of extracting the pigment like you are doing, we are crushing the leaves, but I'm not sure you can do that with indigo Fera. With Japanese indigo, it's easy. If you crush the leaves and put them in contact with fabric, with silk, the pigment just jumps on the silk right away and oxidizes on the silk. So for children, it's a great way to understand how you can get the color from the plant, which you can't do with other dyes. It's too long. It's a great process.
I see.
So if I get you right, Elizabeth, from the Japanese indigo, we can get the pigment direct from the leaf onto fabric.
Yes.
But for
because
our indigo, we can't do anything like that because the nature
the
of
leaves are
our
too
indigo
small.
is we always have to keep in mind that we need to we need to soak our leaves just within 2 hours of harvest.
Yeah, yeah.
Because after 2 hours, the leaves they
Oh,
start
yeah,
to lose
of
moisture.
course.
Yeah, and we won't
But
get
it's
enough
this,
pigment.
yeah, it's the same with Japanese indigo. So we need to do that very close to where we grow the indigo. We cannot transport it. It starts, otherwise it starts oxidizing.
Yeah.
But I think the texture of the leaf of the Indigo Fera is harder than the
Yes,
Japanese
it's
indigo,
harder.
isn't it? Yeah,
It's
yeah,
harder. Yeah.
yeah.
But one thing I think that you saw when you mentioned the color of Living Blues indigo is, and you can correct me, but Murtaza, but I believe that your indigo has a lot of indirubin in it. So it has a lot of the red in it. And that's what gives it its very unique color. You know, indigo contains 4 colors. It contains chlorophyll, the green, actually contains some yellow. It contains the blue. And so each plant or each species has one or more of those, you know, some have more blue, some have more red, some have a little bit more yellow. So Nicosa is going to give you a little different blue than Tinctoria, than Persicaria, than woad itself. And I believe that yours happens to have a lot of that beautiful indirubin. And so you get that beautiful underneath your blue, you can see the red, right? So it's very special that way for me anyways.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And do we know what is this due to? Is this a plant thing or is it
Oh, I think it's so I have Tinctoria from southern India, which is very, very beautiful, very high in goat in the blue, but it doesn't have as much. It has more green than it does, more chlorophyll maybe than the indirubin, the red. I think it's the soil. I think it's the conditions where it's grown.
okay?
I really
Because
do.
yeah.
Mhm.
I'm having a bit of an experiment at the moment. I'm growing Japanese indigo into 2 different locations, but they're only 1 kilometer apart. So they have the exact same weather. They're actually along the same road, but one is in my garden and it's in very fertile soil. And the other one is in the botanical garden and the soil is not so good. And the way it's dying is completely different. So I've just finished extracting for the first time for this year from my own indigo, and I have really strong pigment. The other space, the dye that I just made is very green.
Mhm.
So the chlorophyll is really taking over. It's so interesting, the way every condition, every little whatever area kind of changes the condition of the extraction.
There is one question coming in from Debs. What do you use as an alkali in your indigo process? I grow woad and Japanese indigo in mid Wales.
So,
what do you think? I think that's question to Momia.
well, hydrated lime.
Oh, sorry, that's
Yes, yeah. That is quite relevant to Linda because she is the one who works with Japanese indigo.
Right. So I mean, it depends. So that depends on the kind of vat that you're making, right? So if I'm making what's called a chemical vat, I'm going to use lye. Right. I'm going to use ground madder root. I'm going to use lye and some soda ash. If I'm making a tamarind vat, I'm going to soak tamarind pods and overnight and then, strain out the beautiful pulp. And then I'm going to use hydrated lime for my alkali and the tamarind pulp for my acid. So, you could use overripe bananas, but there's many ways. There's as many ways to make an indigo vat as there are species of indigo that give blue, I think. But I think the most used would be hydrated lime.
Yeah, is that okay, Debs? Feel free to come into the microphone, but also I'm aware of the time, and then Verity has to go question. So
I think it depends on whether you are, what kind of vat you are making. And if you are extracting to make a chemical vat, which a lot of people do with fresh material, if you only grow a small amount of fresh material, a lot of people use soda ash as an alkaline. It's a lot clearer than the hydrated lime. I think the hydrated lime for extraction of pigment is great, but yeah.
So here we have two opposing views.
Yeah. Whereabouts are you based, Linda?
I'm in Virginia in the USA.
Yeah. So I think there is a different tradition. If I make a natural vat, I would extract using hydrated lime as an alkaline agent because it's also a flocculating agent. But if I make a very fast vat with some fresh material, a small quantity of fresh material, and I'm not sure how much pigment I have in there, then I would make a hydro vat.
Right.
Or tile vase or whatever you are using, and I would use soda ash for that, just because it's faster.
Right, but with the thiox, yes, you would use soda ash, but I don't think
Yeah.
just use soda ash alone as your alkali. It's not gonna produce. I believe it's not gonna produce good color, but that's just me.
Right.
I've just done it.
Yeah,
I'm just doing it right this second.
of
So it does work.
Methodology.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for chipping in. That was really good. We can continue for another hour or so. But,
Right.
Yes.
Time. And so it just for now, I would like to say that thank you so much, Murtaza and Momi, for your presentation and then sharing us, what you are doing, like long way away, which we can't really travel.
We're happy for getting our access to this platform. This is quite an effective platform for network building.
Absolutely, that's the idea. So well, that's a good point. So one thing Verity just put in the chat box is that the next event we are meeting Furio Konjo, who is a managing director at the Simena in Ethiopia, and they are also social enterprise making dye stuff and textile stuff. So yeah, please join us. When is that?
That's Thursday, the 27th of October, and it's from 6 to 7 p.m. UK time.
UK time. Thank you.
And if you keep an eye on our What's On, you can also see the next talks that's coming up. Naoko's just fixed an extra dyer for us.
Yes, that's we can probably share the information pretty soon. So please be keep
in touch.
Keep in touch. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for everyone to join, and then let's keep chatting. It's I know, sorry, it's a quite abrupt end, but it's good that we have more to chat about, I guess.
Yeah, thank you so much everyone for joining, and honestly we could go on for hours, and thank you for your input as well, Linda.
It was a very nice hour.
Yeah.
Thanks so fast.
Thank you all for putting this on as well. It's important, I think, what you're doing. So it's really nice to be able to participate today.